I was fired for being too good at my job. Not because I stole, not because I slacked off, but because the new boss couldn't handle how much clients trusted me. 7 years of loyalty gone with one cold-hearted email. He thought he'd buried me, but I don't bury easy. A year later, he didn't just lose his best salesman. He lost his entire company to me. Jack Davis never planned to be a salesman. He studied biology in college, dreaming of working in a research lab or maybe teaching science. But when his father got sick and bills started piling up, Jack did what he had to do. He found a job that paid well: medical equipment sales. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. And more importantly, it helped people. At first, he was just another name on the company roster at Meditronics, a mid-sized firm based in Denver. But over the years, something shifted. Jack wasn't just selling machines. He was building relationships. He remembered every doctor's birthday, sent thank you notes after meetings, and followed up on every installation like it was personal. He didn't care if it was a small clinic in the suburbs or a major hospital downtown, each client mattered. What set Jack apart was his sincerity. Most salespeople chased commissions. Jack chased trust. He'd tell a client not to buy something if he thought it was the wrong fit. He'd go out of his way to solve a problem even on weekends. Clients started calling and asking for him by name. His phone buzzed nonstop, not because of problems, but because people liked talking to him. His reputation grew, and so did his numbers. In just 3 years, he was in the top 5. By year 5, he was the top performer in the company, not just in revenue, but in retention. Clients stayed. Clients referred others. And Jack kept showing up, tie slightly crooked coffee in hand, grin on his face, ready to listen. His colleagues respected him too. He was the guy who brought donuts on Fridays, who stayed late to help a newbie close a deal, who never bragged but always delivered. The old CEO, Mr. Raymond, used to say, "If I had 5 Jacks, we'd be a Fortune 500 company." But things change. Mr. Raymond retired, and with him went the old school culture of loyalty and people-first leadership. Enter Andrew Miller, sharpsuit, Harvard MBA handshake like a dead fish. Miller wasn't there to build relationships. He was there to scale, automate, optimize. He came in with charts, buzzwords, and a plan to modernize the company. At first, Jack gave him the benefit of the doubt. Everyone deserves a chance, right? But something felt off. Miller didn't ask about customers. He asked about margins. He didn't care who was the top salesman. He cared who followed the rules to the letter. Jack's flexible heart-first approach, Miller called it inefficient. Still, Jack kept his head down. He kept doing what he always did, visiting clients, solving problems, closing deals. But slowly, things started to shift. Meetings got more tense. Miller started questioning Jack's methods, suggesting he was overstepping by spending too much time with clients post-sale. He hinted that Jack's way wasn't scalable. Jack brushed it off. The numbers spoke for themselves. Then came the warning letters. First, it was a minor issue. Jack had comped a shipping fee for a long-time client whose equipment arrived late. A common gesture before Miller showed up. Suddenly, it was flagged as a policy violation. Next, a reprimand for unauthorized overtime. Apparently, responding to a doctor's emergency call on a Sunday was against company protocol now. It felt like a setup. And Jack wasn't the only one noticing. Coworkers started whispering about the old guard being pushed out. Morale dropped. Clients began complaining that support felt colder, slower. But Miller didn't seem to care. In fact, he doubled down, promoting a new crop of yes men who followed the script and didn't ask questions. Jack's instincts told him something was coming, but he had no idea how fast. One Monday morning, after finishing a glowing quarterly report and a record-setting month, Jack got an email, cold, clinical, and crushing. Effective immediately, your employment at Metatronics is terminated due to repeated violations of company policy. Your access has been revoked. Your final paycheck will be mailed within 7 business days. No meeting, no warning, no thank you. 7 years gone with one click. Jack sat in the parking lot stunned. The office he once called home now felt like a stranger's house. He looked at the building, then at his phone, already cut off from the company server. And in that moment, as the winter wind howled outside his car window, he realized something. He hadn't just lost a job. He'd been targeted, and the man who did it had no idea what kind of mistake he just made. Jack didn't sleep that night. He stared at the ceiling. The email burned into his mind. Terminated. Repeated violations. Access revoked. But what violations? Since when did going the extra mile become a punishable offense? His wife Emily tried to console him. You gave them everything, Jack. This isn't on you. But Jack wasn't looking for comfort. He wanted answers. The next day, he drove to the office, not to fight, but to face it. He was stopped at the front desk. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis. Your credentials have been deactivated. You'll have to leave the premises. Security escorted him out, like a criminal. He wasn't even allowed to clean out his own desk. Later that week, a manila envelope arrived at his door. Inside, a final paycheck, a copy of the termination notice, and a list of alleged violations. Jack read them one by one. Failure to obtain written approval for a client discount. Excessive, unscheduled client contact. Use of personal phone for business communication. Disregard for company hierarchy in client correspondence. It was absurd. These were the very things that had once made him the top performer. Jack knew exactly what this was. Miller had built a paper trail manufactured infractions twisted loyalty into liability. And now, he was cleaning house. But why? The answer came 2 weeks later. A colleague, Jenna, called him from a burner phone. She sounded nervous. Don't tell anyone I called. But you need to know Miller's using your client list. Jack froze. What do you mean? They reassigned your accounts to a new team. Miller's been bragging that he's locking in a multi-million-dollar hospital deal using your contacts. The ones you cultivated for years. That was it. That was the whole game. Miller didn't just want Jack gone. He wanted his network, his trust capital, without the man who built it. He saw Jack as a relic, a liability to his sterile, data-driven vision of the company. Jack felt sick. He spent the next few weeks in a fog. Interviews came and went. No one wanted to touch him, a terminated employee with policy violations on his record. He was tainted goods. And just when things couldn't get worse, they did. Emily collapsed one morning. Severe abdominal pain. The hospital said she needed emergency surgery. But Jack's insurance, his company coverage, had lapsed the moment he was fired. No severance, no COBRA, no warning. They had to max out credit cards, borrow money from family. Jack sat in the hospital waiting room, his hands shaking, watching the love of his life being wheeled into surgery, while knowing the man responsible was probably popping champagne over a closed deal using his client list. That night, sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria, Jack hit rock bottom. But rock bottom has a funny way of clearing your vision. He realized something as he stared into his cold cup of coffee. He had lost everything, but not everyone. His clients still knew him, trusted him. Many of them hadn't returned his calls yet, likely because Miller told them Jack had left voluntarily. But that could be changed. Jack pulled out a notebook from his backpack, the same one he'd carried on every sales call, and started writing down names, contacts, phone numbers, personal notes, birthdays, kids' names, favorite sports teams. He hadn't stored these in the company CRM. He kept them personal, handwritten, safe. They couldn't take this from him. This was his. Jack didn't waste another minute. The night after Emily's surgery, while she rested beside him in the hospital room, he began drafting emails, personal, sincere messages to the clients he'd built relationships with over the years. He didn't try to sell anything. He didn't complain. He simply told the truth. You may have heard I left Metatronics. That's not exactly accurate. I was let go. No warning. No thanks. Just gone. I wanted to say thank you for the years of trust, and if you ever need help, I'm still here, just not wearing the same badge. The responses came in waves, at first cautiously supportive. Jack, I'm so sorry. That's outrageous. You were the only person who ever followed up after installation. They told us you retired. Then came anger. They reassigned our account to some junior rep who has no idea what our setup even is. We've had 3 missed deliveries this month. It's a mess. Do you have a new company yet? Because we're ready to jump ship. That last message struck a chord. Did he have a new company? Not yet. But maybe it was time. Jack knew he couldn't compete with Metatronics' resources, not at first. But what he did have was gold trust, goodwill, loyalty. He registered a business under the name Davis Medical Solutions, using the last few thousand in their savings account. He called up his college friend Marcus, a brilliant but underused technician who'd just been laid off from a competitor. Then he hired Jenna, the only colleague from Metatronics brave enough to walk away with him. She said yes without hesitation. They didn't even rent an office. Jack turned his garage into headquarters. Emily, recovering from surgery, managed scheduling from their kitchen table between naps. It was scrappy, messy, raw, but it was real. They started with 2 clients, then 5, then 10. Not huge accounts, but loyal ones: clinics, rehab centers, private practices that trusted Jack more than a name on a brochure. Jack didn't undercut Metatronics on price. He didn't have to. He beat them on service, same-day responses, real human interaction, and a promise, we'll treat your patients like they're our own family. Word spread. Miller noticed. One afternoon, Jack got a cease and desist letter from Metatronics' legal team, accusing him of client poaching and intellectual property theft. Jack laughed. He hadn't taken a single file. The clients had come to him. He showed the letter to his lawyer, who called it a scare tactic wrapped in desperation. Jack framed it and hung it in his garage. 6 months in Davis Medical was breaking even. Jack was working 14-hour days, sleeping 4 hours a night, and spending every free second checking on Emily's recovery. It was brutal, but it was his. Then came the tipping point. A major hospital group, one of the biggest in the region, reached out. They'd been Metatronics' crown jewel account for over a decade. Jack had handled them personally for 5 years. Now, they were furious. They keep sending us replacement reps. No follow-through. No understanding of our needs. It's like starting over every quarter. We're done. Jack couldn't believe it. You're switching. We're not switching. We're coming back to you. Jack closed the deal in under a week. With that contract, Davis Medical tripled in size overnight. He used the upfront payment to hire 3 more employees, move into a small commercial office space, and buy a delivery van. Meanwhile, back at Metatronics, things were falling apart. Clients were leaving. Reviews were tanking. Their Trust Pilot score dropped from 4.5 to 2.1 in 6 months. Internal leaks revealed that turnover was at an all-time high. Even the board was questioning Miller's leadership. But Jack wasn't done yet. He launched a new initiative, a loyalty program for former Metatronics clients. Switch to Davis, get a 10% service credit and a dedicated onboarding specialist. He didn't even have to advertise. His clients spread the word for him. One by one, Metatronics' accounts bled away. Not in some dramatic collapse, but like water slipping through fingers. Then came the call that sealed everything. An investor group reached out. They'd been watching Jack's growth and wanted to fund his next stage. With their backing, Jack expanded into 3 neighboring states. Davis Medical Solutions was no longer a scrappy revenge project. It was a rising star. And Metatronics. By year's end, they were down 40% in revenue. Staff had been cut in half. And Miller? Well, he was about to get the biggest surprise of all, because Jack wasn't just taking clients. He was about to take the company. Jack never intended to destroy Metatronics. At first, all he wanted was justice, a way to rebuild his life. But when the investor group offered him a new proposal, everything changed. They didn't just want to expand. They wanted to acquire. "We want to buy Metatronics," the lead investor said. "Strip the parts that still work, merge the rest into Davis Medical. You'd be CEO of the combined company." Jack sat in stunned silence. Take over the company that betrayed him, that fired him without cause, nearly ruined his family. He thought about it for 2 full days, and then he signed. The acquisition took 3 months to finalize. Metatronics was desperate. Their valuation had plummeted, and Miller had burned too many bridges. Shareholders were furious. When they learned there was a buyout offer on the table, they pushed hard. And when they saw who was behind the offer, some laughed. Others were silent. Miller raged. "He's a disgruntled ex-employee," he shouted in a board meeting. "You can't hand this company over to him." But his words had no power left. The numbers spoke louder. Under Jack's leadership, Davis Medical had grown 400% in under a year. Metatronics was bleeding. The deal was approved. And just like that, Jack walked back through the front doors of the company that threw him out not as a visitor, as the new owner. His first act, fire Miller. Publicly. Without ceremony. With the same cold efficiency Miller once used against him. Miller didn't even get to clean out his office. The HR rep handed him a box. "Mr. Davis requests you leave the premises within the hour." Poetic justice. Jack could have stopped there, but he didn't. He called a staff-wide town hall. Looked them all in the eyes. If you were loyal to clients, if you cared more about care than quotas, you have a place here. If you helped Miller push out good people, your time is up. Half the senior staff resigned within a week. Jack rehired Jenna as head of client operations, brought in Marcus to lead technical innovation. He reached out to every former employee who had been unfairly treated and offered them a second chance. His final act of karma. He reinstated a medical support program for employees and their families better than the one he lost. No one under his leadership would ever be left stranded the way Emily was. Jack didn't need revenge, but Karma knew his name. A year after the acquisition, Jack sat quietly in his new corner office, the same room that once belonged to Miller. But unlike his predecessor, Jack kept the blinds open, sunlight pouring across his desk. He didn't need to hide from anyone. The company had transformed. Davis Mechatronics, rebranded simply as Davis Health, was now a benchmark for ethical medical supply in the region. Clients stayed not just because of contracts, but because they trusted the people behind the service. Employees were proud to wear their badges again. Jack visited hospitals personally. He still returned calls himself when a longtime client needed reassurance. No title had changed that about him. At home, things had also come full circle. Emily had fully recovered. She'd returned to part-time teaching, smiling more often, sleeping peacefully again. Their daughter Lily had started school. Her lunchbox, proudly stamped with a Davis Health logo and glitter stickers. One evening, as Jack tucked Lily in, she asked Daddy, "Are you the boss now?" Jack smiled. "Kind of. But mostly, I just help people." She nodded. "Like a superhero." He chuckled. "No cape, no. Just a phone and a lot of emails." But in that moment, he felt more powerful than any superhero. Not because he'd crushed an enemy, but because he'd built something better. Out of what was meant to destroy him, he didn't need revenge. He had peace. And in the end, that was the sweetest justice of all.